Rochester, New York police are giving an update on a deadly crash that took place yesterday. The FBI said it was investigating it as a possible act of terrorism. Let's dip in.
This created the chain of events that followed, leading to the death of the 2 rear seat passengers of the rideshare vehicle and the injuries of at least 9 pedestrians. That number has changed since yesterday as more people have come forward to report their injuries. Yesterday, a search warrant was executed on the hotel room rented by Michael Avery. There was no suicide note recovered during the search of the hotel room. An additional search warrant was executed on Avery's personal vehicle, which was recovered at the airport parking garage. Investigators are still combing through evidence recovered from his vehicle, but nothing thus far has been recovered that provides any additional insight into why this occurred. Although the motive behind the crime remains unknown, the conversations we've had with his family so far leads us to believe that Avery may have been suffering from possible undiagnosed mental health issues. At this time, we've not been able to identify that there was anyone else involved in the crime or that it was part of a larger plot. Additionally, we have not uncovered any information leading us to believe that the actions of Michael Avery on New Year's Eve were motivated by any form of political or social biases. It must be noted this is an ongoing investigation, and additional information may be developed. We're going to share his photo today and ask that anyone with additional information about this tragedy or about the suspect's motivation, please contact the RPD Major Crimes Unit at 428-7157. There's also an email, and this will be on the written release when we put it out, but it's majorcrimes@cityofrochester.gov. Mayor Evans is going to say a few words, and then I will come back and take some questions.
Just let me again reiterate my thanks to our law enforcement partners and to the Rochester Police Department, Rochester Fire Department, FBI, ATF, all of our partners that are here for their work on this unfortunate case. As the chief said, there are still many unanswered questions. We hope to continue to provide updates as we have them. I have been getting inundated with questions as to why this individual would choose, number one, Rochester, New York, why he would choose to do this on New Year's Day, and why he would appear to target concert goers trying to have a great time to bring in the new year. Those are all things that we don't have questions. Those are all questions that have been raised and things that we just don't have answers to yet. But as I've said, the Evans administration is big on transparency. So we wanted to make sure today that we provide an update on all the information that we have available now, because there's been tons of stuff that has been out there that has been unsubstantiated. But what the chief just laid out is the facts. But the most important thing today, I think, for us as we go into the new year is to remember the victims of this horrific accident. Remember, these folks were going to see a Grateful Dead tribute band, and they were expecting to be able to ring in the new year and have a good time. But instead, we have individuals that are now going to be burying family members, and we have people who have now life-altering injuries because of the choices that this suspect made. So I hope that Rochester and the broader community continues to pray for the families that are mourning the loss of their loved ones, and that we pray for the speedy recovery of the lives of the lives that have been impacted by this tragedy. This is a very traumatic experience, not only for the people who experienced this, but also the first responders. It should be noted that there were off-duty Rochester police officers that sprung into action to try to render aid to the individual that was responsible for this heinous act, not even thinking about their own safety, but running to try to put out the fire of the inferno that he started. So even in the midst of this despicable tragedy, there is a reminder that there still is goodness in this world, of the individuals that sprang into action without thinking about their own safety to try to save others. So our thoughts and prayers are with the families and the victims. We will continue to provide updates as we have them. We did that yesterday. And as we get more information, we will continue to provide them. There are lots of questions. I have lots of questions. Everyone up here still has lots of questions. Why Rochester? Why Syracuse? Why all the gas cans? These are all things that will continue to be investigated. And as the chief has said, this is an ongoing investigation until it's not. So this is an ongoing investigation until it's not. But we will continue to provide updates as we have them. And the last thing I want to say is that anyone during these festive holiday seasons, sometimes people have issues dealing with some of the challenges that they have. I want to encourage folks in the Rochester community, the broader community, to seek help if you need it. There is so much help out there. 988 is a number that can be called for anyone that is experiencing suicidal issues, mental health issues. There are resources that are out there. And I sometimes think in our broader communities, when we see these types of tragedies, what could happen if people seek out those resources that are available to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Questions?
What leads you to believe that Mr. Avery has or had mental health problems?
That's based on our conversations with the family. That, as I said, we've been talking to them since yesterday.
Was anything recovered at the hotel room?
There are parts of the investigation I'm still not going to comment on, so we'll leave that for now.
No journal or suicide?
No journal, no suicide note.
What ties does he have to Rochester and this community?
That we don't know. Again, as the mayor said, why Rochester? Why this venue? We just don't know.
Chief, any previous interaction with police, either here or in Syracuse, and any evidence that his family ever tried to get him any help for his mental health issues?
Well, again, I'm not gonna comment on his family business. I don't know, and no contacts with law enforcement.
Chief, now that you've ruled I don't want to put words in your mouth. Have you ruled out that there was any social or political agenda? Is there any nexus to terrorism here at all? Because I know that word has been thrown out a lot. What do you want to say about that?
Well, I'll let Agent Bell comment on that, but as I said, we have not found any of that yet. The investigation will continue. We have not found that. Jeremy, do you want to comment on that?
Sure. Chief, thank you. Good morning. So I can confirm our Joint Terrorism Task Force is involved, but that's not abnormal in a case like this. What I can tell you is so far we've uncovered no evidence of an ideology and no nexus to terrorism, either international or domestic, so far in the investigation.
Will the FBI still be part of the investigation then, or do you hand it back over to local police?
Absolutely. The FBI and our Joint Terrorism Task Force will see this investigation through to its end with the RPD and our law enforcement partners. But again, that's not abnormal. It's something we do in all cases such as this one. Thank you.
While you're there.
Can you clarify the terminology of the gas canisters that were found on scene? Another term that's been thrown out there is explosives. Is that how that's, I guess, approached in this scenario?
So, well, I saw the term explosives too. I mean, without looking up the exact definition of what an explosive is or isn't, they were cans of gasoline. There's a lot of stuff that's out there, a lot of articles, things that we're seeing that, are inflammatory. There were cans of gasoline that he used to ignite the vehicle.
You're talking about just those little red 1-2 gallon cans.
Correct.
Chief, to your knowledge, did he have any interactions with anyone in the Rochester area while he was here from the 27th on? Did he have any friends here? Any connections whatsoever?
None that we've identified thus far.
Chief, just to clarify, was it the collision that caused the fire, or had he actually lit the gas cans prior to crashing?
Yeah, again, that we're going to have to wait until arson finishes their investigation.
Can you tell how fast he was going? I mean, it sounded like he sped up, but how fast was he going prior to the collision?
He did speed up, and I have seen the video, but it's been a long time since I was certified in radar or estimating vehicle speed. So again, we'll let the investigation play out for that.
Approximately 50 or higher?
Fast.
But you
as the mayor
believe he
said.
sped up or sped toward
He
the
did.
crosswalk and the pedestrians?
Yes, you can clearly see that.
It was
And
intentional.
at what distance?
500 feet or so.
Do you believe he was aware that the concert was happening there, or he just happened to see a bunch of people and thought that was an opportunity?
Well, again, we're going to have to let the investigation play out.
What can you tell us about the status of the victims that were hit? I apologize for this, but how are they doing?
So one pedestrian has suffered life-altering injuries. The rest should make full recoveries. I can tell you the two of my officers that were at the scene, as well as the off-duty officer that rendered aid, are taking a little time off. They have obviously some emotional issues they need to deal with as well. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Can you tell us what town that this Avery is from in Syracuse and narrow that down a little?
All right, you've been listening to a press conference out of Rochester, New York there, where the mayor and the police chief are giving an update on the story that we told you about earlier this morning. After a concert, New Year's Eve concert in Rochester, New York, a man identified now as Michael Avery crashed into concertgoers, revelers. Within that vehicle, there were gas canisters, according to the police there. This happened at about 12:50 a.m. on Monday. And right now, they are investigating this as possible mental health issue. No suicide note. That was earlier reported by some news organizations. No suicide note was found in that vehicle. And initially, there was some concern that it might be linked to terrorism. But then you heard their police saying that it is possible that there might be some mental health issue at hand, but they're still investigating. So we'll keep you updated on the story.